everyone, I'm Cherlynn from Engadget, and welcome to the Amazon Prime Video Upload panel. Today we're catching up with the cast and creator of the Amazon original series, Upload. Now, many of you might know the show's creator, Greg Daniels, from beloved series like The Office, Parks and Rec, and now Greg has created a whole new futuristic world full of a fantastic cast of lovable characters for us to fall for. In Upload, you can choose to upload yourself into a digital afterlife of your choosing, should you have access to it. In season 1, Nathan, our lead character, who's played by Robbie Amell, lands himself in one of these digital afterlives called Lakeview, run by a company called Horizon. He soon finds himself caught in quite the love triangle between Ingrid, played by Allegra Edwards, and his customer service rep, also known as Angels, called Nora, played by Allo. We also get to meet a lot of the other residents in Lakeview, including Luke, played by Kevin Bigley, who's, shall we say, determined to hack, exploit, backdoor the system to upgrade himself into a more luxurious afterlife. Which, of course, seriously pisses off his angel, Alicia, played by Zainab Johnson. And all of this is just taking place in a world that's so technologically rich and complex, and it honestly almost gives us a glimpse into what the future of tech could be like. There's all kinds of gadgets in this world. I mean, our phones don't really exist anymore. Instead, we have these Fitbit-like devices that are holographic projectors, so they'll display a screen between your fingers. There's also 3D printers, which we are kind of familiar with, but in Upload, they're in everyone's homes, and they print food. There's also a new dating app called Nightly, which allows you to rate your match's skills, whatever they might be. There's also, of course, delivery drones, self-driving cars, self-cycling bicycles, robotic checkout counters. The list goes on. But at the heart of the show is the concept of the upload. Are we approaching a future where you can digitally upload yourself, your consciousness, your essence, your soul, and then virtually live forever? That's one of many, many questions we're going to get to during this panel. So let's get right to it. Please join me in welcoming our panel. Let's start with Greg Daniels, the creator, director, writer, and executive producer of Upload. Hello, Greg.
Hi,
Cherlynn. We'll clap for ourselves.
Thanks for having us.
Next up is Allo, who plays Nora. And we have Robbie Amell, who plays Nathan.
Yes.
More. We have Zainab Johnson, who plays Alicia.
Yeah!
We also have with us Kevin Bigley, who plays Luke.
Yay!
And Allegra Edwards, who plays Ingrid.
Thank you.
So we're going to get into, I have so many questions. I hope this will be able to keep to 1 hour only, but we'll get right to it. Greg, you've mentioned in the past that the idea for this show started during your time as a writer on SNL. In your view, since then, I mean, to me, tech has evolved so much in just the last few years. How much of the tech in the show did you have to tweak to kind of fit your original concept for this final version? Or do you think it's already very close to what you originally envisioned?
Well, it's really not a lot like the original idea. The original idea was really inspired by ads for CD players, which were just coming out. That's how long ago it was.
What's a CD player?
Yeah, well, the idea of going digital from analog, yeah, exactly. What's a CD player? Yeah. No, I'm a very old comedy writer. The original idea was founded when I realized you could have a gramophone without the wax cylinder to record the sound. So that was, an eye-opener for me. But I didn't start this version of it till 2014. So I was able to include all the big tech companies that are probably still around. And the last time I actually did one of these panels at a Comic-Con, I was introducing the show People of Earth. And they asked me what I was doing there. And I was saying, well, I'm practicing directing for this other sci-fi project that I'm working on. And so this is the other sci-fi project that I was working on back then.
Would you say the tech? I mean, you did mention some of the big company names just now in your answer, and I mean, I that's one of the things I love about this show is that you've got the weirdest combination of companies ever. You've got Google, Samsung. There's Panera owns Facebook, Oscar Mayer Intel. I
Yeah.
mean, these names. How did you come
Nokia,
up with those
Taco Bell.
combinations?
Yeah. There
Oh
have been
my
a
god,
lot
I
of
love
mergers.
that.
Yes, and it's mostly high-tech companies merging with fast food. I'm not exactly sure what the advantages are in such a merger, but that's what's happening in the future.
Intelligent meat. That's what we're thinking. I think moving forward, which sounds very
That's
yummy.
right. The future of meat.
The idea of tech obviously powers the concept of the upload, which I think is an idea explored in a lot of shows as well. The philosophical notion is that can you replicate everything that's going on in your brain in a digital form, and is that your consciousness, is that real? And so one of the lines that really stood out to me about the show is when Robbie's character Nathan is visiting the 2 gigs less luxurious 2 gig level in Lakeview, and he says it's just code. And in the show, Nathan was really referring to things like empty pages in a digital book or like clothes for these avatars. It really is just code. I do think though that this line is really at the heart of one of the core concepts of the show, right? It also talks about like why do these companies want to control these things? Is this resource, delegation, and you're just being a little selfish as a conglomerate? But also the idea that like Robbie or Nathan's consciousness is just code. And what do you think, Greg? Did you mean that when that line was created?
Well, the show is very much about unfairness because we as human beings are creating our own heaven, and it's for profit, and it's not supernatural at all in this show. And so it has all of the greedy downsides of normal human society. And the part that you really feel for is someone like Nora, who's really struggling to try to afford upload for her dad when there's all these very wealthy people walking around, and they don't necessarily deserve it, but they're up there living for hundreds of years. So the notion of fairness is really part of this. And I remember reading somewhere in like a businessy book about when they make printers. They only make one kind of printer, and it's the fastest one, but they have to have different levels so that you can sell it at different price points. So the slower printers are actually the faster printers with a little chip that slows them down, and then they charge less for them. And this is like this kind of horrible thing that you don't expect, right? But so that's sort of like the spirit behind Horizon. A lot of times they could let all the 2 gigs have the same experience as everybody else because it wouldn't cost them anything additional, but they keep the 2 gig experience not very good so that you'll want to spend more money and save up more while you're alive so you can have the luxurious experience.
There's definitely that criticism of corporate greed in the show, which still manages to be very lighthearted. So kudos on that. Robbie, when Nathan says those words, do you think maybe part of him is kind of self-aware enough to realize that he himself is just code?
Oh man, that's a little deep. Um, I never thought about that, but now I'm really thinking about it. I mean, the big thing for me when I was reading that line for the first time and for the 100th time was how unfair it is and the income inequality, and these are things that I actually thought were really interesting about the show because like Greg said, it's not heaven. It's built by corporations, and the gross parts about life are still involved in it. But I like seeing that side of Nathan, saying that this is all code and everybody should be able to have it, because he starts off like a bit of a shallow douchebag. And, I think you just get to see a little bit of a different side of him when he meets the 2 gigs and he sees people who, don't have it as well off as he does, even though he's pretty upset with being kind of owned by Ingrid at the time.
There's a line that Nathan says later when he's giving Nora's dad a tour, and he says something like, I'm a piece of software in a machine, but you're a piece of software being run by a computer made of meat. I think he might be aware that personality and your who you are is like code, but it just depends on.
He talks a little bit about the soul and whether being a computer made of meat or a computer made of, or digital computer, the idea of going to heaven versus or real heaven or a digital afterlife, and what really makes a person, whether it's what you have with you or something that continues on and goes somewhere else. I love that
Look,
conversation. with Nora's dad.
in a nutshell, this show is about meat. We're just making a show about meat here.
Intelligent meat. I mean, we can step away from the meat for a second. I mean, that just reminded me, Greg, when you pointed it out, that Nathan does go on to, look through Nora's phone into her world. That's kind of a window into her office. And he's so in awe of just like, that's real. And it does seem like he's at least a little bit self-aware. He's stuck in this world that doesn't feel so real. I'm actually very intrigued by the dynamic between Nora and Nathan's characters. First of all, I mean, to have a woman of color in such a role, I mean, I see Nora as the hero of the show. Sorry to everyone else. But it's really nice for me to see a woman of color in such a role. So kudos, and what a great job you do. But the relationship between Nora and Nathan is just so complex, right? I mean, on the one hand, Nora is one of the few people who has such a unique perspective. You've got one leg in the real world and one leg kind of in the digital afterlife world. And you fully believe, I mean, Nora fully believes that these people are real people because she's repeatedly told other people outside of Lakeview that these are real. So what do you think? I mean, when you're kind of playing that relationship out with Nathan, you actually ditch a real world date for this digital person, which is nuts. And let's remember, this is a digital person that you had a hand in creating too, because you put together his hair, you put together, what it looks like. What do you, I mean, how did that feel playing that? Did that dynamic come into your mind at all when you're playing Nora?
I mean, now that I think about it, isn't that the best thing though, is when you are dating someone and they change and you kind of shape them into the person that is perfect for you. So I think that's great. I love that. I had a hand in creating Nathan.
Definitely.
And then getting to also see all his memories, which, there's a scene with my dad where he says, do you think the reason why you like Nathan so much, or dead Nathan so much, is because you've seen all his memories, you know him, as opposed to real Byron, who is my real life date that I ditch, because you don't really know him. And that's partly true. Nora gets a chance to get to know Nathan first, and make certain judgments initially. And I think that's the cool arc of Nora's story also, is that she really gets to get to know Nathan from his point of view.
Robbie, what do you think? Is Nathan also kind of feeling awkward about that whole I'm dating someone who's actually in charge of me situation, which, by the way, he also has with Ingrid, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Oh yeah, Nora's not in charge of him. I mean, honestly, that's
not really, but you can control if he falls asleep, Yeah.
I think one of the really nice things about the Nora and Nathan relationship is that it's not supposed to work. She's alive and I am an upload, and it's not a Romeo and Juliet thing, but it's a little bit of a there's no pressure here thing. So, we're able to become friends, and there shouldn't be a romantic side of things, but you can't deny the chemistry, when you're learning so much from somebody and sharing so many experiences with somebody. And, Nathan at the beginning is, pretty shallow and self-centered and probably thinks he was living a pretty exciting life. And then this happens and he thinks his world is over, and he meets Nora, who, has real problems, has lost her mother and is, working her ass off to save her father. And I think there's a big perspective shift in Nathan. And I really like that, there's a little bit of are we the decisions that we've made, or can people change? And I just think Greg's so good at creating these relationships between people that feel so real and are so relatable to what everybody goes through, in life and in their own relationships. I just think that he creates such a world that pulls people in.
That's right to the point, right? I mean, this budding romance between Nathan and Nora is, complicated by Nathan's real world relationship that already exists by his very alive girlfriend, Ingrid, who's also the one who convinces him to upload, which is basically dying in the real world. And she also finances his entire existence. So, Allegra, what's it like to play someone that's basically dating a ghost? Does Ingrid see Nathan as kind of a really expensive Tamagotchi, or is this love real?
I think that, the thing that's so fun that we explore in the show is that it's the modern long distance relationship. The thing that adds a layer of complication is that he is digital, and there are choices that I can make on his behalf that are just so simple and are the push of a button or the entrance of a little passcode. And that's all it takes for me to change his day or make his week worse. So in that respect, yeah, I think there's a little abuse of power going on. But ultimately, I think the thing that made it really authentic and close to home is that it's actually just a long distance relationship. And having been in one for the last 2 years myself, I think the miscommunication and the trying to get on the same page and how easy it is to be connected when you're together in physical space versus when you're not in the same time zone or in the same plane of existence, say, on Upload. I think that's the human element. And that's something that people not only resonate with because they've experienced it, but especially during this season of life when a lot of us are not able to travel to our loved ones. And I think that's what's really stood out to me, is that we're thinking a lot more about long distance relationships than we have before.
I do have to say that, Allegra gets away with saying and acting, in a certain way on the show, only because she is so kind and so sweet in real life.
Aww.
And, being able to be the middle of that love triangle is I'm very lucky. And, the chemistry with Allegra is almost like we have to pretend that I dislike her because she is actually so sweet. And our whole cast gets along so incredibly well that we're all just very lucky.
Yeah.
Robbie obviously loves everybody, but I think everyone can agree that no one likes Robbie.
Enough, please stop.
We'll get to you soon, Kevin. Allegra, I mean, you talk about the long distance relationship. Would you like something like a hug suit in the real world, in real life?
That's such a complicated question for me, because I think it takes a certain level of adventurous spirit to just wiggle into one of those. I think the idea of it is better than putting it into practice. I will say that it's very hot, very sticky, and it's very difficult to hear. And that was actually one of the most fun but difficult parts of shooting that scene, is that if you can imagine, I had a layer underneath and then foam over that layer, and then a scuba suit, and then goggles, and then a skull cap. So directing me was next to impossible. It was just all based on instinct. So no, I don't know if I would actually go the distance and like try it for real if it was an option. But desperate times call for desperate measures, right? We want to be with the ones we love.
That
could be your motto.
Yeah.
I think that's a character motto for you. Yeah.
I have one, but I just don't have a VR. I just do it to get in it.
I would have one.
Yeah, I'd try it.
I would use the hug suit. Yeah.
Oh, so everyone's in it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it if you had to rent it. I think Ingrid's first instinct, like seeing them wash it and hose it down, was like, no, you either have to own the hug suit or you don't use the hug suit. But the reuse, it's like, no.
I would try it first.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Try it, and before committing to buying one. It's like a rowing machine. You try it first, and then
I would try it as in I would be the first person to try that hug suit, and then anyone else can do it.
Because when you think about it, the person that has the job of cleaning the hug suit, that's probably like a low-level job. And a lot of times, that's like a team. No, they don't care. They're not cleaning that suit. Now you have a rash.
They're not into it. They're already disgusted. They want you to have the rash, so you keep the suit. I get it.
It needs
but yeah,
disposable
so
pants.
Disposable.
it does. I hope someone technologically savvy watches this and creates that sort of layer of
Yes.
protection. That would be
Clearly
fantastic.
improvements could be made. Yes.
Yeah.
Kevin, one of the lines you say really early on in episode 1 is you say you have to believe it's real or you'll go insane. You tell this to Nathan, but you spend also the rest of your existence trying to crack this system that you are fully aware of that is not real, right? Because it has to be not real or you can't crack it. And so, you like opening that door 5 times or like writing the AI guy into the exclusive area. Do you think though that like Luke is extremely aware of the not real, or do you think he actually believes the afterlife is real, or like and kind of does he think that this is his afterlife, like he deserves something better?
Deserve something better? I don't know about Luke with that. I think probably Luke is like a hamster who really digs his cage, and instead of just accepting it as is trying to get creative with it and trying to find certain ways he can enjoy it all the more. It's just really funny to me that you have these you have Allegra and Andy and Robbie, and they have these very existential themes and problems, and Luke is just the opposite. He's just completely rejecting all of that deeper thought to try and figure out ways that he can get as much like earthly pleasure in this place that is beyond Earth.
More tacos.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, what? Where does my life mean without a purpose? And I'm like, you could have a tub full of these things, like it's the opposite.
I don't want to get too deep or bleak really quickly, but I mean, Luke does have kind of a darker backstory than some of the other characters. I mean, as a suiscan, I think that's heavy as a person who lost the use of their limbs in what sounded like war or some kind of vet situation. But then at the same time, you spend most of your digital afterlife kind of avoiding the bad stuff, right? You don't even want to go into the 2 gig level to visit your best friend, Nathan in the 2 gig zone, and he's suffering. So do you think that Luke's character is kind of aware of, or like that his past is kind of ever present and that's why he's kind of trying to avoid it, or he's like completely left it in the past?
If I would again compare Luke to an animal, it would be it'd probably be like something like a shark, in that if he stops and really thinks about it, it's very important that he keeps swimming.
So half shark, half hamster.
I think that's very right. I think it makes sense to me.
Easy to picture.
Shark hamster in a wheel.
That would be great. That would be terrific fan art if we could have some kind of hamster shark. It would also make for a killer tattoo. But I think I think Luke, if he starts to consider how depressing his life is and how perhaps pathetic he is, I think he would just implode on himself.
Does that make sense why he's always trying to find these little challenges that make actually life a little bit more rewarding? If you didn't have these little things or obstacles in your way, something that's too perfect.
Well, it's kind of like this, right? It's kind of like quarantine. I mean, like, who hasn't picked up like sourdough rolls right now? I mean, like, everyone's just trying to find some way to distract them from just the world tumbling down on them. And for me, it's just baking sourdough, like figuring it out one day at a time, trying to figure out where in my cage is a different corner I haven't really fully explored. And I might be able to find more detail in a game of some sort.
Which brings me to like my favorite dynamic of the entire show, which is Alicia thwarting you at every turn. I mean, her, what was it, Dick's End? I forget the full
Fingers
name.
and Dicks.
Thank you, Fingers and Dicks. Fingers and Dicks file. One of the best things I've ever seen on TV, and also just like it's a drag and drop into a file, an actual file on your desktop. Anyway, but Zainab, your character is unique as well, right? I mean, as an angel, you share a similar perspective to Nora. You are 1 foot in the real world, 1 foot out in the digital world. You also get to see the economic unfairness in the real world, and yet you have to cater in your day job to these privileged babies like Luke, who's there just being his shark hamster and just really screwing things up for you. Do you think Alicia has a very different point of view of these digital uploads than Nora? And how real does she think they are? Because your character screws around with them a lot more of finger sticks and unibrows. I would love to see more. Just saying.
I'd love to see more too. I'd love to explore that. I think I think that Alicia is kind of thankful for Luke because, and I know this might sound, yes, Luke gets on Alicia's nerves. Yes, the more Luke gets away with, the more reprimanded Alicia will be in her job. But sometimes you're at those jobs where they can get a little bit mundane. And what allows the day to go and what allows the job to be interesting is you may have drama with your client, or you may be able to sort of lose yourself in helping your friend do whatever she needs to do. In that case, whatever Nora needs to do with Nathan. So I think that Alicia kind of needs Luke a little bit. I hate to say it, but I think she does.
Okay, what animal combination would Alicia be then to go up against his shark hamster?
Oh,
I think Alicia would be a tiger because I'd be on your ass. And
You have to pick
maybe
a
like a
rodent.
bear. Oh, I have to pick a rodent. I hate rodents.
No,
This
you
is
don't.
unfair. This is unfair. Because I already gifted you my animals, and you therefore picked like these two formidable beasts that would destroy me. So I think this is ridiculous.
Well, that's what happens. The whole purpose of this is for me to always defeat you.
I think it's interesting though, Zainab, because there's that scene where we're in the break room and we're talking about Nathan, and you're like, listen, you need to figure this out or I'm gonna get in trouble, and like that'll be it. And I say the same thing to you, where I'm like, you too. And you're like, oh no, I work at, you're like, list like 5 other jobs.
Yeah, falafel halal. I walk dogs. I got a lot of jobs. I can't wait to see Alicia hopefully at those jobs, or at least the reason why she has so many jobs. And I wonder if she has the same like slight disdain for those jobs that she has for Horizon,
Right. So it's like there's more, I feel like with Nora, like this is the job she has. Whereas I think that's the difference, where Alicia's like, no, this is just one of my jobs.
Yeah, but also I think this is what's so beautiful about the Nora character is that it's very she's very transparent. And so even if Alicia's I don't know what her life is like, but it might be chaotic, but she's not going to let everybody know that. She's not going to be that transparent with people. So who knows? But I think what's so wonderful about Nora is she lets it be known, like, this is all I have. This is the reason why I'm here. And Alicia's like, well, girl.
Right. Like, Nora doesn't really know. Like, she doesn't really know what Alicia like her life is like.
I think we would all like to know, and I think season 2 hopefully will bring us some of that. But before we get to some of the teasers coming out, Upload is one of the more tech-heavy shows in recent memory, that at least, and that's saying something. I mean, I watch a lot of sci-fi, and I've not seen this number of tech that I can identify in any of those shows. I'd like to ask everyone here, what's your favorite piece of tech in the show?
I think at the beginning, I really liked the nightly consent. The consent part of the Nightly app. But now that we've been in quarantine, I definitely want printed food. I just don't want to cook food anymore. I want printed food now.
I want extra fat cartridges in my printer.
Yes.
I don't know why that just sounds so gross. Just a cartridge of fat.
It can't be good.
Really?
It just can't be good.
It's
My
like
printer
butter.
sucks,
It's just like,
and I know that the food
that's
would
how
be
I
bad.
think it's just.
I could really
pure
go
butter.
for a self-driving car now and then.
Mhm.
I don't think I want the ethical questions that go with it. But there are days. I mean, listen, I lived in New York for 5 years, and the subway system is kind of a version of a self-driving car.
My only problem with the self-driving car was there's been plenty of times where I've been having drinks with friends and we've agreed that we should go to Vegas someday. And my worry would be that I would wake up in Vegas, having forgotten that we agreed upon going. Because you just kind of go, and then the car goes, and say you fall asleep.
Just makes it too easy.
That's a practical concern of mine.
Once you die in a self-driving car, you don't really look forward to having a self-driving car.
So what would you like, Robbie?
I love the memory parlor. I just think it's so it's one of the most I don't know, I guess like fantastical things in the show, like just being able to relive any memory from childhood, from any time. I just think is really sweet and really beautiful, and I thought that was something that was kind of offbeat from the rest of the show and not necessarily used in that way, just as an idea. I thought was just really cool.
Greg, did you come up with a lot of these ideas yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on the show for so long. It's not like I had this sudden burst of inspiration and came up with all of these in a month or something. But the memory parlor is cool because you can press enhance, and then all the memories are a little sharper and you can remember them better. So like a lot of them kind of take their start from things that happen on a computer, the ability to go into your photo editing software and just press one button and everything's kind of brighter and clearer.
So I know that we have something planned to show everyone that's watching the panel today. Greg, do you want to kind of introduce us to it?
Yeah, so this is from the episode where Ingrid invites Nathan's niece, Nevaeh, to come over to her house for a sleepover. And, Nevaeh's never had unprinted food before. And Ingrid's trying to bond with this, Chloe Coleman is Nevaeh, and she's kind of this cool, young woman who really prefers Nora, but Ingrid's trying to bond with her. And this is when they're on the way to Ingrid's apartment in the self-driving car.
You ever had cooked food before?
You mean not printed? Nope.
Well, someone grows it in the ground. It's like the earth is printing it. And then they dig it up.
Ew.
No, it's so good. And you'll never guess where real meat comes from. Have you ever held a baby lamb? Sleepover Kids Bop playlist. Oh my god, I love this song. Yes!
I wanna be stronger.
Yeah, all right. I see you. Come on, girl.
Let go of my fears, you'll hear me scream like I walk through the fire. You know I'm unbreakable. I'm gonna get strong. I'm gonna get strong. I'm gonna be strong.
I'm exhausted. You want to have some dinner?
Oh my gosh.
The good thing about the self-driving car, yes, the good thing about the self-driving car is it would not have just been Nevaeh looking at you with wide eyes. It would have been a driver looking at you too, like, what is she doing?
I mean, the dancing was great, don't get me wrong, but I also think I love the idea that a child in this world finds the idea of whole natural food gross. I mean, we were just talking about how we think 3D printed food with fat cartridges is gross, but Nevaeh is like, ugh, it's dug up from the ground, gross. Greg, I just wondered, when you talk about fat cartridges, like cans of bread and egg powder, is this good stuff? Is this nutritious? Is it healthy? Or is it just kind of a means to make the world a little less dependent on farming and a little bit more efficient?
Well, not everything's great in the future in this world. Some of the stuff is clearly for the benefit of other people. And the idea here is there's another deleted scene where Nora goes down this alley and hands some cash to a sketchy-looking guy who gives her a brown paper bag, and she pulls out a green pepper, an actual grown from the ground green pepper, and is eating it. And then she takes the seeds and puts it in the alley to try and grow some green peppers. And she gets stopped because the seeds are owned by Monsanto, and you're not allowed to grow anything yourself because all of the seeds in the world are licensed through a big corporation. So so I guess there's a bit of like satire about genetic foods and how far we are from our roots.
Right, because it's
Everyone
actually
else-
illegal to grow your own.
Yeah, and she's got a little
unless-
window box. Nora has a little window box where she's growing radishes out of her window, and she'd probably get busted if anybody found those.
Yeah, your real food that people were stealing from your window, by the way. Is that like a luxury item in Upload?
Have you had a radish? Just a raw radish? It's delicious.
I have
Perfect balance of crunch and sweetness. A little
I
tart.
would give it to the shark hamster.
Yeah. I think what's so interesting is that, thinking about nutrition, right? I love that you asked about that. Does the printed food have equal nutritional value? As we're at the dinner table with the Cannerman family, Ingrid is clearly proud of herself for being a chef. And when I think of a socioeconomic, high status family, I think of them going out to eat at restaurants all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe preparing their own food is not something they would do personally. And yet in this world that Greg has created, it's as if, being able to cook food at all is such a luxury item or ability that's what separates the Cannermans from Nathan's family. And so I think it's so funny, Ingrid says in that clip that we just saw, it's like the earth is printing it. And that's the best way she can think to explain to this girl who why would she have ever been around anything that was cooked fresh? And I love that juxtaposition.
It's funny how Nevaeh is so surprised to find a bone in her drumstick. Because it's like, what's this doing here? We always thought that that sometimes when the food is printed on the inside of the drumstick is like a little cardboard roll, like an inside of a roll of toilet paper.
So weird. So weird. And that Ingrid's response is the animal that chicken comes from has them, which is not just chicken. It's a chicken.
There's not even a name for it. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
It's funny that Greg, you say the roll on the inside. I pictured like cartoon food where you just eat the entire thing, like a cartoon chicken drumstick. You just eat the whole thing.
I pictured it'd be like a popsicle stick with a joke written on it or something. Why did the chicken cross the road or something? Yeah.
Well, we are nearing the end of our time. I'm going to ask everyone one last question. Who on this panel, which of you would choose to upload? Show of hands. Just raise your hand. Would you upload? We've got 3. We've got Robbie, Andy, Greg. Did anyone else raise their hands? And Kevin.
I did.
Okay. Explain yourselves, because this is, to me, like choosing death, basically, because it's a very, very scary way to go. That visual arrest of it, I was just so shocked when I saw it too. Greg, do you want to go first?
Yeah, that's gross.
I feel like I've spent a lot of time thinking about this since we shot the show, and the what it comes down to for me is I look at uploading as kind of the in between, because you can still jump in the torrent and then die, but Nathan's young. He has friends. Well, he thought he had friends. He has family, and he wants to, continue in some version of this life, even though you can't go backwards yet.
Yeah, I think that's how I would look at it too. Yeah, it's like
Simple.
I think when it's an option to have, it'll become normalized, and it'll be just like an antibiotic or something. It'll be like, this is a medical treatment that you use to keep persisting in the lives of your family when your body's failing. So if it's weird to have a heart transplant, it probably was with the first one, But then, people got used to it and they were like grateful that that was an option so that you could stick around longer. And I think like when you're a little kid, it's just so inconceivable that your consciousness wouldn't be around, And so as you go through life and your body changes, you realize, well, maybe the body isn't the important part. Maybe the important part is your consciousness. So if you can somehow be, guaranteed that that's going to keep going, like in a robot or something, maybe that's enough, I don't know whether it is, but get another 100 years out of it, be pretty cool.
The only thing that's terrifying about its existence is that, like, if the wealthy have everything, removing the fear of death from them probably isn't going to make them better people. So we're going to have to deal with that. So I don't know. Yeah. And also like fear of death removed from society entirely, also screws with the grieving process. Like they are doing some of this with social media as far as constructing, when a loved one goes, if they have prominent social media, they'll construct a consciousness or something to discuss and talk to and text, and they'll send things back. That's already pretty creepy.
I think continuing the consciousness is like really cool, but I just don't trust corporations enough to put my consciousness, my full consciousness in their hands. Like there's certain restaurants right now where when you order an egg, you have to say, I want a real egg. And that's like that's a corporation. You didn't know. I don't want to say the restaurant name here.
You text me, Zainab.
Text all of us.
Can you imagine
I think you're right.
a server coming over to you and being like, "Oh my God, we are so sorry. We gave you a real egg. We swapped it out on accident. It's our bad."
You what?
I would upload. I love it. I'm there. It's the next chapter. It's my chance to just do all the things I didn't get to do on Earth. So,
and when you say upload, everybody imagines that they're upload into Horizon. And as you saw in some of the later episodes of the first season, every upload is not as nice as Lakeview, So
I would go.
You need a sugar mama like Ingrid.
So,
Yeah, you do. You need me.
We
You
could
hear
go
that?
on. We
You
could go
need
on
me.
forever. Unfortunately, we do have to keep this within the time limits of this virtual panel. Greg, I have so many questions. Will we see answers in season 2? Is there anything you can share with us about what to expect in the next season?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I mean, when these guys were talking, I kept thinking to myself, "Oh, that's coming up, guys."
I'm so
we'll see that
excited.
from Alicia. We're going to see them do this and that. Yeah, we're right in the middle of writing it, so I don't want to get into too many specifics in case the plans change. But yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more new tech. We're going to find out more about the Ludds and their community. We're going to see Nora and Nathan, change Lakeview some, and a lot of stuff coming up.
I am so excited.
Nice.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for your time and for joining us on the panel today. If you at home haven't seen season 1 of Upload yet, it is now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Be sure to follow at Upload on Prime or the hashtag UploadTV on social media and catch up on season 1 now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cherlynn.
you.
Thanks, Cherlynn.
So much fun.